So, DaVinci 21 Beta just dropped a full photo editor inside the app. No subscription, looks similar to Lightroom and can do a pretty damn good job. So, can you ditch your photo editor for this? So the first thing is, I'm not a professional photographer, so this isn't can a wedding photographer switch to DaVinci Resolve's photography studio. It's more for someone like you and me who uses DaVinci Resolve every day. Can we stop paying for an extra photography editing subscription and just stay within DaVinci Resolve where we already are? So let's take a look at the new software anyway. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import media folder, because you can't drag the folder in here like you can in the edit tab and keep the folder structure. It will lose the folder structure. So we're going to import media folder, go to where your photos are stored, select folder, and it will drag them all in. Now, unfortunately, if you're primarily a Lumix enjoyer like I am, it does not work with the RW2 files just yet. You're going to have to convert your raw files to a DNG before you bring it in. Once all your photos are inside, the first thing you're going to do is create an album. So I'm just going to create it with all the photos that I've selected for this tutorial by highlighting them all with Control A and dragging them down to the album section. And now that we've got them in our album, we can just hide the media pool so we have a lot more to work with. And the main keyboard shortcuts that you're going to be using are the up and down arrow keys, which are going to take you through all of your photos. You have your S key, which will put a heart on your photo so you know it's good, but I've already keyboard mapped my S key to something else. And you have an X key because you don't want that photo and you want to reject it. And that way you can filter by hearts. You also, like Lightroom, you have a star rating above it, so you can give each one a star rating, and you can untag them as well. Now, you can't change the order when an album is created, so you can't drag anything around. I don't know why. And it also creates a timeline in your edit timeline, which again is grayed out. You can't do any editing here. It's just showing you all of the things that you have. Okay, let's move on to a quick overview of the photo editing. If you've brought in a JPEG, you're only going to have access to this photo section. If you brought in a RAW, obviously, you will have the extra raw section, which is where you're going to want to do most of your things. Since this is working with the raw files and it's a lot less destructive, if you head straight to the photo, you're going to be using the baked in JPEG look. So like I said, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to edit the raw settings of your photo, save the highlights, boost the shadows, the color boost, saturation, all that kind of stuff you're going to do before you move into the photo tab. Now, if you want to check the before and after, you can just create a new version here and remove all of the changes you've done. And then once you've done that, you've got the version 1 that you're working on and the version 2, which is just the before, just so you can see between them. Also, one thing to remember, when you're working in here, Control Z does not work properly. I have begged DaVinci a million times on the forums to please fix the way their undo works. If you want to join in my complaint, please head over to the forums and join me. So do not use Control Z when you're in the RAW tab. It works fine in the photo section, but it will mess things up here. Just as an example, I've got this dog here. Let's boost the exposure. Obviously this is a terrible job, but I've just made all those changes and watch what happens when I press Control Z. For some reason, it's rejecting this photo, which is something I did a very long time ago. So yeah, exactly. It doesn't work. Anyway, once you're happy with how your raw photo has been converted and you want to do some more tweaks and some creative adjustments, you can head over to the photo section. And at the top here, I forgot to mention, you do have your scopes, so you can choose between your parade, your waveforms, vector scopes, histogram, and CIE chromaticity, which who uses that? Let's be honest. But the histogram is probably the best one for the photos, so I'm going to stick for that today. And you'll be happy to know Control Z works perfectly fine on this section. So there's a lot of things we can do here. We have our source transform where we can move our photo around, which obviously I'd want to do in this one because she's a little bit off frame on the photo. You have a cropping as well. If you want to crop things in, you can keep it the same aspect ratio and it will crop around your photo. Then we have the source looks, where it comes with a few sort of presets that you can use if you want to be a little bit more fancy. I actually like the vibrant one, so I'll just leave that on for now. And then we have adjustments, and just like Lightroom, it comes with an auto balance one, which, nope. And here, if you wanted to make any extra adjustments based on what you've got here, you can make them down here. But bear in mind, this is more destructive than using the raw tab, so it is better to use the raw tab. This is just for kind of small little tweaks that you want to do afterwards. And just a quick translation if you're coming from Lightroom. Lift is the black slider, gamma is midtones, gain is the white slider, midtone details is clarity, and color boost is vibrance. It's not exactly the same, but that's kind of a rough guide if you're used to that kind of stuff. So one of the benefits of using DaVinci Resolve is you could now head over to the color page. So In the color page, your first node is what you have done in the photo page. So just to show you, if I bump this contrast all the way up and come into the color page, the contrast here has been changed to match. So I can undo that and it will undo it in the photo page. But if I make a new node and do the same thing, it does not get affected in the photo page. So it's just the first node in the color page relates to the photo page. We can still use the color page here though, the same way we'd use it for video editing. So we can do all our parallel nodes and we can do all our little effects here as well. So I know there's a little bit of noise in this one. Let's add the noise reduction. And after the noise reduction, I could also add some of the LUTs that I have in here as well if I wanted to. And then of course just use my normal workflow and continue on the coloring process in here. But I'm not going to do that today. That's just to show you that you can do everything that you can do on videos with your photos, which is awesome. You can also use the Fusion page as well on your photos, which is where you do minor little adjustments. Things like if I just add on the paint effect and then come over to the clone stamp. Maybe I want to get rid of these kind of little trees poking out the ground. You can just alt click somewhere to get your reference point. And then if you press Control left and hold the mouse left and right, you can change the size. And if you want, you can even press the overlay here so you know what you're actually painting over the top. I'm just going to paint over that. Move the overlay. And there we go. You can continue doing that just to fix things up a little bit. And like we mentioned before, there are different ways of filtering. So you can go through everything, mark it with a heart, discard it, star ratings and colors. And then on the side, you can just filter it by that. So if I filter by hearts, these are all the ones I've selected with the hearts. And then you could filter by the star rating as well. But the good thing is I've already done a video on IntelliSearch and it works the same with photos as well. So then I'm going to come over here and then I can either highlight all my clips and press perform AI analysis in selected clips, or I can just let it do it on all clips in my project. It depends what you've got. And then we're just going to click this button and let it analyze for IntelliSearch and make sure identify faces is on, and then click analyze. So now when I come to the search function up here, there's a new button that says show face gallery. Now I do have way more faces than this. It's only managed to pick out 3. I think it's because if you only have 1 or 2 photos of them, it just doesn't really count it. So this has worked really well on videos, but unfortunately on photos, it's not worked the best. But it is still good. If I have a lot of models in my folder, it's found her face and I can click through all of the photos of her, or I can do it on this person as well. And then this guy who was just some random fire dancing with a mask, but for some reason it recognizes his face, but not her face. Oh well, it's a beta. But the cool thing about this is it kind of adds some metadata tags to all your footage as well. So if I come up here and I type in dog, then it shows me all the photos where it thinks there is a dog involved. There is my parents' one-eyed dog, Bertie. This is a horse, not a dog. This is a dog. This is not a dog. This is not a dog. This is definitely not a dog. It's trying. The point is, it's getting there. Let's try cat. Okay, well, at least it found all my cat pictures. And it also added the squirrel and the cows, of course. Cow did a pretty good job with the cows. So it will find all the correct clips for you, but it might add in some extra ones as well, because these are not cows. What about if we try something a bit more obscure like model? So if we type in model, it has actually found all the model photos, which is pretty damn impressive, to be honest. And we can also just type in like random things like nature. And obviously all these are shot in nature, so that does make sense. It's a work in progress, but honestly, it is really cool feature to have. And it does work, it just has some minor quirks that come along with it. Okay, and because we are in DaVinci Resolve, we still have access to all of the effects that we would put on videos in our photos, which is, again, another awesome thing. Let's go through some of the ones that you might be using. We have the Resolve effects refine as well. So you have things like the blemish removal, the face age transformer, which I don't think we would actually use. I mean, we definitely wouldn't use this on a model photo shoot and stuff, but if you want to mess around with your friends, you could add a few extra years to the photos without them noticing. Even the face reshaper. If you want to show the overlay, just come over to these 3 dots here and then click here for the effects overlay just so you can see things. Now, it's not something you're probably going to use on a lot of people, but you do have the option if you want. As well as the refine, you have the Resolve effects light section, so you can be adding lens flares onto your footage as well. And again, you can drag it around if you have this FX overlay on. You have light rays that you can add if you want to make it look like it's a lot brighter outside, or just you want to go for something really stylish. Just a nice simple little glow. Adding some lens refractions as well. Like there's just so many options to really up level your photos, which you're not going to find in Lightroom. You'd have to drag these over into Photoshop to do this kind of stuff. And even then, it doesn't come with all these built-in presets. You kind of have to build it yourself. The last ones that I think are very useful to know are the Resolve Effects film emulation things, because you've got the film look creator where you can just drag it on and choose a preset for a film look. I always use the global blend if I'm going to add something like this, and just bring it down to the top and then just drag it up slowly and make sure it doesn't look overdone, because that looks overdone, but that looks quite nice. That gives it a nice little extra filmic look to it. And then the split tone, which is just your standard little teal and orange extra, unless you change the hue angle. Halation, make everything look a little bit more halo-y, which is also nice. And then you've got the classic vignette, which I way overdo every time on all of my photos because I just, oh God, I love it. So good. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with all the things you can do. Just make a note, you have the effects panels, you can do a lot. And while we have this open, this is where you would come to crop your stuff as well. So if you come to the crop here, then you can choose which aspect ratio you want. So if you're going to do it for Instagram, I just do 4:5 and select that. And then play around with the crop that you want. And then once you click this, it's done the crop and you are ready. So because I've edited all this in the photo tab, if I come in here and make a new timeline and I drag that photo into it, all the edits are already there. So the cool thing about this is I don't have to edit it in Lightroom, export it, drag it into DaVinci, realize there's a mistake, do it again, and have 500 final version 27,000s in my folder structure. I can just edit, I can just put it into my timeline, and any edits I make are going to be made in the timeline. And the final one, when you want to export, you can come over to Quick Export here, choose what you want to export as, which is obviously JPEG or PNG. Please never export as HEIC, because whenever clients send me these stupid iPhone formats, I just want to smash my computer open. Anyway, you can export the entire album or just the selected things. Choose the quality, resolution, 1872 is normally fine, and the scale as well, and choose a file name and then export, and you are done.